I think everyone mostly just wants to know that you're okay and you know what your plans are for the future.
Let's see. People think I'm CIA already, but I'm just, jeez. All right, we're back. Terry just had a cigarette. That's good. All right, well, we should probably wait a little bit because well, it'll keep streaming, but I just want people to join the latest broadcast.
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna post it on the Discord as well as IRC. And just so you,
What about his teeth?
I think I take my shower every day, dude.
Not you.
I'm not the one that got issues. Someone said, "Notice me, King Terry."
Yeah, it's kind of nasty to be on the streets, to be quite honest. The showers and stuff.
Yeah.
Stink.
Yeah, I think hopefully you can.
Yeah, well, it's kind of that's a big challenge,
Definitely.
Have you looked into like hostels maybe, or?
There's a list of places to take a shower at the Gay Center, and I'm gonna go over there, and they got like someone was suggesting public pools. There are places that similar to that.
Kind of,
yeah, I know, but like someone's like, "Oh, go in the ocean," It's not. I don't think it's quite that time of year.
Actually, there's a lot of people at the.
Someone was saying, "Don't put your hair in there." I guess I don't know. Anyway.
In the seawater.
I don't know what happens, but apparently you're not supposed to do that.
Well,
I'm gonna get a hat. I was gonna go get a hat. Just like I look a lot better with a hat on. So.
Okay.
Well, you got your hygiene kit here, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Make good use of that.
We might need to wrap it up a bit.
Okay.
Just because it's already 5:20 and it's kind of a long drive, but I'm honestly thinking I might.
Do you have any questions or anything? I'm happy to ask them.
You actually, you talked about pretty much everything that I wanted to really ask you.
Okay.
There was that one good question.
Yeah, there was one guy who had a really good question. He wanted to ask you.
This one, right?
Yeah. I'm just making sure he's on. Okay, so yeah, he's on. He wanted to ask you about some of the first programs you created on the Commodore 64.
Okay, the first one I did was I had a book. On the Commodore, you're almost immediately forced to program in assembly language because it's so slow. And so in 8th grade, I got there's a little book, 6502 assembly, and in 8th grade I learned how to do. It doesn't have a multiply and it doesn't have a divide, and so the first thing you have to learn is how to do a multiply and a divide by hand, and in binary or in assembly. I put it on the. I put an example in Temple OS of multiplying and dividing by hand. A funny story is in 2004, I was like, "Oh, dude, Temple OS is gonna be perfect for the disruption in the market from 64-bit." Right? I was like right at the right time, but unfortunately, I didn't have a 64-bit machine. So I was like, "Oh man!" From the start, I wanted a 64-bit. So I went ahead and I did everything. My compiler was all 64-bit, but it was using 32-bit regs from the start. I was using AXDX for one and BXCX for the other, EBX, ECX, and I was forced to do the multiplies and divides. I was like, "Oh fuck it!" You know what I'm just gonna do? I'm just gonna do the binary. So I had interrupts for doing multiply, divide, remainder, and so forth. And all it was doing was the binary. The funny thing is that I imagine it was really slow, but it was temporary. Anyway, long story short, in the assembly examples, there's multiplying and dividing by hand, and that's kind of an example of what I started with in like 8th grade or something. The Commodore, you want to draw a line. It didn't have a line draw. And the funny story is, as a kid, I figured out, okay, well, I'll just like just calculate the slope, and then I figured out doing what do they call it? Fixed. Okay, there's a term fixed point in math, and that's an entirely different thing from fixed point iteration. Is something you learn in a numeric methods class or something like that. But there's another thing which is like a fixed point. You have like Ticketmaster. It's kind of a secret. They did all their money calculations with pennies. So like
it's not a secret anymore.
Yeah, I'm busted. You're not supposed to disclose this. But anyway, so like let's I don't know, like maybe a foolish person would use floats for money, right? And then you get like weird round off errors and stuff. But like Ticketmaster used integers, right? So like as a matter of fact, I was at the they were using a 32-bit for money, and right in about 1994 or something like that, they were doing the Olympics or something, and it was no longer enough money to hold it, so we had to convert everything to 64-bit, all the money. And so we had to convert all the assembly reports over to Pascal and use 64-bit. So people think I was just like an intern, but I was on it was kind of weird. I was like immediately on like I was on like all the high profile stuff. I went back and looked at a history of Ticketmaster, and I was like, oh wow, I was on that, I was on that, I was on that. People assume I was just like an intern or something, but it's not quite how it was. It's kind of a weird like, did I deserve it? I don't know, but like I was one of the ASU doesn't have that many merit scholars, and like Ticketmaster went there to recruit from ASU, and so in some respects they were lucky to get me. I don't know, there was just not that. Anyway, so they put me on high profile projects. It was pretty cool. People just think I was just an intern, but anyway, the Commodore. What did I first do? I said, okay, well, I'm this little 8th grader. I learned algebra. I'm like, okay, well, I just calculate the slope, and then like what I'll do is I'll just put like the 8-bit fraction. I figured this out on my own. I was kind of proud of myself. I'll put the 8-bit fraction into 1 byte, and then the on the other side of the decimal out. So like I calculated the slope, and then I just added the slope over and over to make the line, right? And so, like, of course, there's I forgot the name of I don't know. There's a name for the standard line draw algorithm. But the funny thing is I went ahead and did it my old-fashioned way. Here's my logic, right? You got this branch. Branches are supposed to be evil in modern flow of CPUs, right? You don't want to do branches because it messes up the flow. I don't know that much about it, but I heard they're evil, right? So you want something smooth, right? So with my line draw, I calculate the slope with a divide, and then I do a real smooth operation, the rest of it, just adding the slope. And so like, I didn't compare them, but it would be kind of funny if like my slope algorithm was faster just because of the no branch. The standard algorithm, well, I can describe it for the line. Basically, they added, and like if it goes over one way, they bump it over a pixel, and if it's anyway, I calculate this. It'd be interesting for someone to do a comparison of the standard line draw compared to my line draw. I think it might have a crossover point, right? Like if you're doing a 300 pixel line, and you calculate the slope one time ahead, and then you just do no branch adding the slope. I bet mine does better than like, the question is, what's the overhead of a divide to calculate the slope, right? And so the divide's pretty fast. It's like it used to be a slow operation, a divide, but like well, whatever. People think I stole stuff, but as a matter of fact, the ridiculous thing is, it's like my line draw. I didn't steal that. That's psycho. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody's like, oh, well, obviously it would steal that, right? No, I didn't steal that. That's just a demonstration of how original it is, And I took a computer graphics course. We studied B-splines and so forth. I'm a little bit unhappy with the graphics package, like in terms of perfecting the temple. The 3D is a little bit. There's a lot of purists who would say, hey, you should keep it simple, get rid of the 3D, right? Well, that's kind of a spoil sport. The 3D is I have a transformation. In order to do 3D operations, you multiply by a matrix. This is the clean way of explaining it. You could explain it like this times cosine, that times sine, and so forth. But the clean way of explaining it is you multiply by a matrix. And so on my device context, I haven't even looked at other people's, but like on my device context, I have a transformation that you can apply, and so you get it doesn't always work out. I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of cumbersome when you're trying to get stuff done, and sometimes I'm a little disappointed. Like, is there a cleaner way to do this? You know, and like I'm almost like if you guys got suggestions on how to overdo the graphics, I'd be all ears. You know, you got these hot shots like I talk about the three amigos, Linus Torvalds, Terry Davis, and John Carmack. We're all like born at the Unix epoch, 1970. I was like December 15th, 1969. One of them's like a few months earlier, one of them's a few months later, and we're the three amigos or something. We're all the same generation. We all went through the Commodore. We're all kind of similar in some respects. Like I wouldn't say, Carmack's a little bit, I don't know, academically distinguished, but kind of like not really academia, right? Like there's kind of I always like to. I would rather be. I'd rather be industry than academia. You know, like I'm at Ticketmaster, right? Gadway used to tell jokes like in academia, if it's good, you publish. In industry, if it's good, you keep it a secret. And so I always used to. I was a big Reagan capitalist, and we went through the monopoly and fuck you, Pearl Jam. Just because they sued Ticketmaster for being a monopoly, and I was there at the time, and I was like, fuck you, and
because
anyway,
they have the best stuff, right?
Yeah, well,
what are we gonna do, right?
I don't know. So like, sort of like my, I identify with the rock music crowd, and they probably. They might all hate me for Ticketmaster for some reason. I was like, I don't know, why what's the big on the one hand, if you really want to support local music, why don't you just go to local clubs and like, I was talking to the Queen of England, right? She's like, I was like, hey, send over, I said, hey, send over more of that British invasion music. How come you don't make any more music? And I sort of got a back channel that's rude, and I was like, as a matter of fact, that's a good insight, because like if you have something high quality, it intimidates the locals. And so like in Temple OS, I don't want high quality games because it intimidates people. It's really weird when you like sit down and make your own song. It's like for the longest time I thought musicians were like gods, or like I didn't think I was like it is a weird thing when I realize I can make songs, and there's this intimidation that happens, right? And you realize they're mortals, and you can make songs, maybe not as good, but like it's a weird thing when you're not intimidated. It's like you're like a compiler, right? Like today, everyone's like, oh my god, 2 million or 20 million lines, I could never even begin a compiler, right? But like in the old days, what was his face, Kevin Ritchie, or I don't even know the heroes or whatever. But like everybody's, all the individuals were making compilers, and so it's like, but today nobody would ever be like, oh, no one person. Like my dad like never took me seriously. Like, oh, well, he can't make an operating system. It's a big company, it's ridiculous. And so my dad never took me seriously. He's like, well, that's just a silly thing, because obviously Microsoft's a huge company, and So the funny thing is, I like to joke, I have more professional credentials than Linus, because I was, in the game industry, they talk, I don't know, like if you're trying to get a job in the game industry, they want you on a shipped game, right? They're like, oh, do you got any credits on a shipped game when they hire you? And I was like, hey, dude, I got my credit on a shipped operating system. I'm on the VAX TMOS, Ticketmaster operating system. So I was like a professional in age 20 to 26. I didn't do that much. I did a couple minor. I did you got what do you call it? One of my first assignments was to inspect and fix the file system, right? You got disk check, or what is it called? Check disk on DOS or something. At Ticketmaster, one of my first assignments was to do VMAP, and it was to verify the bitmap. It wasn't a FAT32. It was just kind of like mine. It was just like it had a binary allocation, and I don't know if I should. It had a what do you call it? Hash table expandable directories. Like it would like double in size, and like I shouldn't give all that shit away. But anyway. So like one of my first assignments was to verify the file system bitmap, and then like give you the option to, when you fix a bitmap, what are your options? Basically, you can, if it's allocated and it's not supposed to, you can free it, and if it's not allocated and it should, you can allocate it, and you really don't have that much guarantee it's gonna have no errors, right? All you can do, right? Like, oh well, this shouldn't be allocated, I guess. That one, it's pretty safe getting rid of those. But if you allocate the ones that weren't allocated, who knows what you're going to get. But anyway, so like, so one of my, I did file compression at Ticketmaster. They used to have PKZip. My boss gave me a magazine that had the LZW algorithm. Is like, we need to make a package that can put together a bunch of files in an archive, and I kept the core code for the LZW. I didn't do the packaging. My files are all individual LZW. People think they're archives. They're not. I have graphics in source, but people assume it's like an archive, right? They assume that my files are like a mix of multiple files. They're not. They're I redefined my documents are actually, a PDF is like a single file, and it's got like I don't like PDF, but anyway, it's got a crazy combination of graphics and text. My files are ASCII with binary sprites, and then they're compressed with LZW if you put a .z. The reason that came about was so I had this compression, and I was like, oh well, I'll put a one of the attribute flags for compression, right? But like then I'm like transferring them. I was like, I'll make my own file system and put an attribute for compression. But then I'm like transferring I was dual booting and transferring to FAT32, and it's like, my attributes get lost. Here's a fundamental bit of wisdom. If you pollute your brand new design with anything imported, it's going to corrupt your whole design. And here's the problem. You see, like I was like, oh, well, I want to support FAT32, but all of a sudden it's like, no, I don't really want to. If I have metadata and then I'm going to FAT32, it's a real big disincentive, right? So like, as soon as you start bringing in foreign concepts into your brand new clean slate, it's going to corrupt all your thinking. You're not going to have the same purity. You're not going to have the purity, right? I'm going to design something from scratch, but like when you start bringing in a little bit of compatibility with something existing, it's going to corrupt your whole thing, because it's really a pain in the butt to do something brand new, because like it's so interfacing with something existing, it's going to corrupt your whole purity. So like right now I got ASCII, but like here's the way you demonstrate being qualified to write God's temple. Your first question is, it has to be perfect. First question is, what do we replace ASCII with? Because ASCII's got all that crap in the first 32, right? That's all garbage, right? Well, there's no reason to carry that forward into a perfect operating system. So like, Gadwell had some crazy things with 3 bytes and 16 bits. He didn't use a full, there's RAD 51 and stuff like that. They're doing a bunch of crazy compression. But like when you're dealing with disk I/O as your main bottleneck, then you're doing all this compression, putting 3 bytes in 2, and then it saves on the disk I/O and so forth. And so like God's saying, hey, get rid of a couple letters. Like, I'm king, right? So there were a couple particular letters he's like getting rid of. It'd be really cool if you simplified the keyboard, get rid of a couple letters, and like start using that RAD 51 and like replace ASCII. You can do some cool shit. But right now I use 8-bit ASCII. I didn't get that adventurous, but as soon as I get credentials and I have God's authority, I'm gonna perfect that. I'm gonna replace all that shit. I had a dream of trying to unify scan codes, screen codes, and ASCII. Okay, or whatever the replacement is, right? There's these 3 different things, and one of my great desires is like to eliminate complexity, right? Like I got rid of paging, right? It used to have like 2 different virtual addresses and physical addresses. I want just addresses. Right now you got screen codes, ASCII, and so I'm hoping for these grand unifications, right? So like I worked out a plan for having right now you have the Alt key, the Control key, and the Shift key, right? Alt, Control, and Shift. I was gonna do the ASCII like the first 64 are straight up keys. The next 64 are shifted. The next 64 are control, and then the next 64 are control shifted, and like redesign the keyboard. Like okay, well, we don't got the 3 keys. It's kind of not so fun. But like you can, there's gonna be some, you know, how you have control. Some keys get eliminated with this scheme, like Control C, Control V, Control X. That's going to replace some of those keys, you know, because you know, got the insert, delete. Those are redundant with the insert, delete, and so forth. And so I had a dream. What if we redefine ASCII with 64 straight up values, 64 shifted values, 64 control values, 64 control shifted, and try and make that work. And like then you get God to eliminate a couple letters from the alphabet, and then like you reduce your you know, right now it's a big clusterfuck with different keyboard maps. So like go in there, like replace it with this one thing, and you know, right now I got crazy key combinations. You know, the funny thing happened. I got a laptop, and you have to hit a button to do the function key. It's like, oh shit, I got to do 4 keys, and it was too many for the. Yeah, that's pretty funny. So I think we're a little carried away.
I feel like that way on Emacs. Yeah. You ever heard of Emacs?
It broke down the keyboard can't have that many keys. At the same time, it was pretty funny. That's a little carried away.
Yeah, no worries. I think we wanted to kind of talk about your plans, and also someone asked what happened with the drum set that people funded. You know,
I got kicked out the next day, and like I'm in my van, and I was like, oh shit, I got it. And I'm like, anyway.
It still exists, right? They didn't throw it out.
There might be a little coincidence, like the drum set. Then.
Well. So but they didn't throw it away, did they?
They gave it away. They gave it to Goodwill. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, yeah. All right. Well, at least we now know what happened.
Yeah. Well, now I'm down to this. I got nothing.
Well,
what happened to the van too?
It got
well.
Is it impounded?
Yeah, kind of impounded. Yeah, that's interesting.
You can get it back though, but it's kind of difficult with like the situation that's going on, right?
Well, because he has to.
So I got an insurance settlement. But like the loan has to be paid off, and like there's this crazy paperwork. I got the paperwork, but
yeah, people are just concerned. A lot of people, you know, that's funny. A lot of people are thinking you should go back to Vegas. I know you don't want to do that.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, definitely not.
Definitely not.
Okay.
I will live on the streets before I get castrated. No, it's a very simple answer.
You know, okay. So someone mentioned there's herbs to counteract the.
No. It's not gonna happen. They want me a castrated slave. Not gonna happen. Okay. I will. Yeah. You know, some people fight for freedom. You know, absolutely not.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't like revolt.
The motto is live free or die. You know, as far as I'm concerned, that's my motto.
So Terry, someone asks, is the Earth flat? And so,
as far as no paging, what?
No, like, is the Earth flat?
Yeah, there's no paging.
So, sorry. Because you know, there's this huge internet thing about you know, NASA's maybe lying to us. You know?
I proved God with an oracle that's certified by NIST, which is the people that are responsible for the golden kilogram. These are the most respected scientists. I know people are. Here's the deal: we got a bunch of zombies that can't tell truth. You know, you tell them truth, they got no way to judge. You can prove it with like science. They're like, because nobody trusts anything. You can't trust anything. It's like, well, how do we know they didn't get hacked? You know, and like, you know, at some point you gotta stop being such an idiot, right? NIST is not getting hacked. NIST gives, as a matter of fact, NIST publishes cybersecurity for industry.
I don't think anyone questions NIST anymore. I think most of the people that are questioning the random number thing are just trolling.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the flat Earth thing. It's kind of funny actually, but.
Yeah, it's a big leap to believe in God, because I was an atheist, and it's not easy to convince people. They're like, oh, they won't even give it a second thought. You know, most people are like, well, shut you down. Like, oh, of course he doesn't exist. You know.
Well, so the mathematical explanation of flat Earth is that we're living in the third dimension on a flat plane.
Okay, I don't take it seriously.
Really?
You know, the funny thing is there's perfect justice, right? So like all the atheists are like, oh, well, that Bible, there wasn't any truth back then. It's like, well, dude, how do you explain the psychology? Like, if you study these things, you know, it's a little weird to do the forensic psychology of all that Bible shit, because it's really intricate if you really study all that prophecy and stuff. And you're being a little foolish to dismiss the forensic psychology of all these oracles and how they took all this shit seriously. You really think they're that stupid, like to like completely be like bizarrely dumb? You know, like there's nothing to any of this shit. And like the funny thing is there's perfect justice, because now they're not taking the moon landing seriously. That's fucking hilarious. That's just what happened with the all the Bible stuff, right? Nobody took the Bible stuff seriously, and so the perfect justice on those very people is they don't take the moon landing seriously.
Well, so with the moon landing,
No.
I'm playing devil's advocate. Sorry. With the moon landing, what's interesting is you look at the picture of Neil Armstrong's boot that was on the moon.
Oh, even I've been almost tempted to believe it's a
and
fake.
So on the moon, the footprint is completely different than the boot he was wearing.
Okay, I don't know.
Right.
I take it seriously, but it's tempting to not believe it, you know.
Yeah.
But
with the CIA and everything.
Yeah. But here's the beauty. The very same people who rejected the Bible and loved science now suffer the very same frustration when people reject the moon landing. They're like, no, that's my religion. You can't reject the moon landing. And it's the very same perfect justice that they rejected the Bible. It's like, dude, did you even look at the forensic psychology of all this shit back there? They didn't just make all that shit up. The intricacies and the psychology of all those oracles and all that crazy shit in the Bible, they didn't just pull that out of like nothing, you know? There really is a phenomena that's not all bullshit. You can't be that crazy and intricate and like complex, you know. The forensic psychology just doesn't make any sense. That it's just nothing, okay, in the Bible, because it's stupidity to
a lot
like.
Of people just keep this in mind when people ask you questions, and just ask yourself: are they trolling or are they serious? Right? Because not everyone.
Flat Earth, I would assume, is trolling.
Some people aren't.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who are just like creative writers that are coming up with these sort of fabricated, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, like the ice is melting. They're saying, well, what if there's another continent? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
God said global warming was inevitably going to crash, but like He made the Dark Ages, and He's going to make civilization rise and fall. He's God, and we're not.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well.
Wrap it up.
So yeah, I guess your plan is kind of just hang around and.
Yeah, I'm getting some back channel good stuff from people starting to believe in God, and if you really are God's king and prophet, then it's bound to get better.
Yeah. Do you think you could go back to somehow make it to Seattle to your brother?
Well, that's the really weird thing. So I got a brother who's like a drug dealer and stuff like that, and like for him to come out and be like, "No, you have to take the meds," is kind of a little bizarre. I don't really understand that. You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of herbs too that I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, just keep everyone updated, you know, like stay on IRC and keep talking to God. Yeah.
Okay. You know, Exodus, right? You got like 600,000 people are like, fuck this slavery. God's talking to us, and he's like, get out. He parts the Red Sea. They got through the Red Sea, and then they're like in the middle of nowhere, and like God provided. So like, in theory, you're supposed to be able to trust in him. You know what I'm saying? So it's if you're in a situation where you put your trust in God, it's supposed to cause his sympathy and protection, you know. So it's not quite unbiblical to put yourself in a little risky. You know, the original apostles and stuff used to go house to house and travel with nothing, and not that I'm not so convinced it's gonna all work out, but you know, and anyway. So, but I'm not going back there to get castrated and be a slave. Fuck that. Because like, here's the weird thing, right? So like most people, you assume when you get a job, it's like fair and open, right? But like the way my jobs work is it's like I send out resumes for like 6 months, and like a fly-by-night company gets created just for me, and they reject all the other places that I send resumes are immediately put in the trash, coming out of my email. And then like the one that was set up a fly-by-night is the little CIA place where they want me to work. It's like, oh, this is a little weird. Like this place was like set up for me to work at, and like this has happened a couple times. Zytec, little fly-by-night place. Like I was in the image processing, and then like, whoa, that's kind of weird. Like 2 miles away. I got no car. I'm like 2 miles away, they're doing image processing because I got into barcode reading at Ticketmaster. It's like, holy fuck, look at this, my dream job, like image processing. That was a pretty. I got no complaints about that job, but anyway, but as it begins to get suspicious. Okay, so like I was doing drywall like in high school, and like, look at that. There's like a Phoenix office in downtown where the Select Drywall is, and look at that. Like Phoenix is like, let's just say, I don't know, let's say 16 miles radius or something, you know, all the way around. And right in the center of town is like the Select Drywall, and like it's kind of like a block away is like the crazy dingy Ticketmaster office. And my very next job, just for some weird reason, was like right next to the Select Drywall. And then like I'm in Zytec, and it's like, well, that's kind of weird. It's like 2 miles away, and it's the image processing. Then you get up to Vegas, and like I'd done laser printers at Ticketmaster, and there's like and then look at this. There's this laser printer thing, toner cartridge assembly programming, little tiny chips to replace the chips on toner cartridges, and so like it's kind of like basically I seem to be on the course to be a CIA slave or something. It's not all good because like they do this crazy shit like that they're like, oh, hack the secure hash algorithm, like sit down for 8 hours a day, hack the secure hash algorithm. Yeah, dude, this is like what they use for Unix security. Apparently one of these little toner chips has a secure hash algorithm. Like, I'm not gonna be able to hack it. Like, it's just whatever. It's got this crazy XOR multiply clusterfuck formula, right? And like, oh, just I don't know, hack it, reverse it. I'm like, well, no, it's stupid. I'm never gonna be like that's retarded. Like,
yeah, it's obviously
maybe the CIA wants to study how my approach, and now I'm beginning to go, oh, you want to see how hackers operate? Well, I'm not like into this, man. And I don't really like just banging my head against the wall for like 8 hours. Like, how the fuck you hack the secure hash hacker? Well, fuck you. It's like I was like showing up for like an hour or two miserable at work, and I'm out of here. Fuck this. And like, it's like day after day. Oh, well, just keep paying your check. Just hack the secure. I was like, fuck you. And anyway, so that. You get. I've been given a lot of Mission Impossible things. It's like after a while, it's like, fuck you, disabled, man. Fucking too many Mission Impossible. Like it's depressing. Like, oh, Ticketmaster designed a barcode reader to compete with the off the shelf. Like, okay, me. Like, okay, well, you know, I'm smart and stuff, but like. It's like winning a gold medal in the Olympics, you know. It's like it's kind of depressing. So first of all, ours was like two-dimensional, stack fed, and then we're competing with like ours had to find the barcode on the entire ticket, two-dimensional, and the handheld they stuck it right on the barcode, and like this is kind of like winning the gold medal in the Olympics. It's like it's not so easy to win the gold medal, you know, like the top of the industry, right? They get the handheld. And like I got to win the fucking gold medal by myself at Ticketmaster. It's kind of depressing, you know. And like, so what are we gonna do? Well, anyway, so like, and they had that line regulator thing, and I was just like, too many of these. That's why I started laughing at Google. It's like, oh, it's no fun if you got a failed project. Like, you get to go to Google heaven and be in like the Googleplex with the free food and shit. Meanwhile, you get like assigned to a balloon project. Like 6 months into it, you're like, hey, dude, man, this ain't gonna work. And like 6 months, it's like, oh, just keep working on it. Like, fuck, man, it ain't gonna work, man. So how would you like to be? I'm just imagining how it would turn out, right? So now you're Mr. Google employee, and you're like, fuck, man, I want a waste of money, and like it's another 6 months before they cancel it, and like you're just depressed. You're depressed. Oh, I have some more free food. Oh, fuck you. You know, you're miserable, right? So like, I start thinking about the people in academia. That's everybody. Everybody's like, you know, God said pride or money, choose one. And like, this is a classic example. Like, you got all these people that are getting a lot of money, but they got no pride. It's like, oh, fuck, man. Imagine somebody in academia getting their PhD, right? They're like, well, I'm doing this pretty pointless little obscure little PhD on God knows what. But like, fuck it, that's what I do. And like, only 5 people are gonna read it, and it's got no meaning. But like, that's my life. And like, are you doing a medical research, right? Some drugs or something, right? There's an awful lot of people in this world that are on miserable, failed projects, and that's a classic example. God said, pride or money, choose one. So like, you know, if you were working on something, working in a fast food, or not fast food, something a little less extreme than that, but like, let's say you're working in manufacturing, I don't know, then at least you got the dignity of like, you know, I'm doing something productive. But like, if you're like in if you're a PhD person, or like there's so many researchers are doing bullshit that's not worth anything. There's an awful lot of people that are getting money for like shit that's not gonna work, and that's like pride or money, choose one. It's kind of fucked up. But apparently you got to have a lot of failures to get like successes or something. But it just blows my. I just think about how many people are like doing medical research, and like it's like, oh, it's not a chance in hell, right? This shit doesn't work out. You got 1,000 people working, and maybe one of them gets a winning drug, but then you got 1,000 people on just shit that's not worth anything. It'd be a little depressing. But pride or money, choose one. Apparently God eventually the losers get a win, apparently, with the way God works. And like, you learn, and then like, you know, you get a failure, you get enough failures, and then God gives you a win, I guess. But anyway, so you know, then you know, there a lot of capitalism is doing sleazy stuff. You know, like I told you about the Ticketmaster line regulators. Like, dude, man, this is gonna cost like $1,000, but they could just buy this $300 one. Oh no, but this would be like a clean solution that looks like Ticketmaster, and it's kind of all fucked up, you know. I'm not against capitalism, but I just don't want to be in a situation where I feel miserable. In a lot of the places in capitalism, it is like, it's bullshit, you know. I'm not against capitalism, but I don't want to be in one of those situations where you're fucking worthless, you know. It's like, but anyway.
Okay. So I guess kind of the last thing, and we kind of need to leave, unfortunately.
Okay.
But people are asking if there's anything else we can do for you, kind of just, or anything else we can kind of provide. We'll be online. I'm Kenster on IRC, by the way.
Okay.
I also have a YouTube channel, King Herring, but I don't know if you want to watch that.
I'm hoping to get my big break where like people finally acknowledge God, and like the Oracle keeps landing for Terry, and they say, holy shit, it's a little weird that Terry keeps talking to God, and nobody else is getting the same luck, you know. And then it starts to become a thing, you know. So that's what I'm hoping for. I hope it all works out like that, you know. But
okay. Well, thank you very much. It was really nice meeting you.
Yeah. Thank you so. Thank you so much.
Here.
Okay.
If you guys want to see some coding streams, I have my own channel, King Hair. So, thank you, everybody.